Zoning Board will take up continuation of case number 4157. Zoning Board of Appeal, Town of Stoughton, notice of public hearing. Public hearing will be held in Town Hall, Conference Room B, Room 301, 3rd floor, 10 Pearl Street, on September 17th at 8 p.m. on the petition of Tri-Town Commons LLC, represented by Attorney James Burke, case number 4157, for special permit under the Town of Stoughton zoning bylaw of 1970, as amended, Section 5D, Table of Use Regulations, Principal Uses, Retail and Trade Item 4B, Fast Food Order Establishments, in order to operate a fast order food with drive-through located at 630 Washington Street. Further identified in Assessors Plan 55, Lot 166 and 167, in a general business zone in said Stoughton. Any persons desiring to receive further notice concerning this petition is provided by the general rules of the Zoning Board of Appeal should file a written request containing his or her name and address with the board. Petitioner or his representative or any other persons desiring to be heard in this matter should appear in time and place designated. Chairman Echo Chairman was in May 29th and June 5th, 2015. I have a little correspondence. I think everybody received it once from Marguerite. It has to do with the old plans. And I'm not reading the traffic report in. And we have two others one's from which we all received, part of the technical memorandum for the Sonic and for the Sonic traffic peer review. So we'll probably be going through each one of these separate. So I'm not reading them in. The motion to open the case, and it was seconded. We're all in favor. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board. Thank you for your patience. It's been a long haul. Hopefully we can bring this to conclusion tonight, close the public hearing, and take a vote. As you know, and you probably have identified it, where before you seeking a special permit to be allowed, you have a drive-through of the fast food utilization under the bylaw. In addition, there is a request for variance under the sound bylaw, which identifies a request to utilize the existing Sonic prototypes for the information for distribution to the consumers. We had a little bit of correspondence this week that resulted in a final adaptation of a plan that's the most recent edit, and part of that communication was with the engineering office. I know one of the issues that was discussed was the Lincoln Street exit configuration, and there was some difference of opinion as to what might be the best utilization of that, whether or not it should have a raised island or not a raised island. I believe Mark Tisdale's here and is prepared to address the plan, and hopefully we have met the requirements of the engineering department, and they're prepared to approve the concept of the plans, subject to your board's determination if it's appropriate for a special permit. We also have our traffic consultant, Brian is here again. Katie Enright is unfortunately had another commitment. She'd love to be here. She's our engineer, but Mark is also with Howard Stein Hudson, and he's prepared to assist the board with any questions it may have, in most particular as it related to some of the traffic issues. So I'm not sure how you want to go from here. You can take it one at a time, but whether or not you'd like to hear from the engineer first, or whether you'd like to hear from Brian.
I'd like to hear from Mark first. if you don't mind.
I think it's a good idea.
Then we can put the gloves on and
I hope.
It's okay if I sit here? Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. I appreciate it. I'll just give you a little summary, a little recap of what went on in the last couple of weeks. At your last meeting, prior to your last meeting, the board requested that our traffic consultant review the site plans. GPI reviewed the site plans, came up with their final report, I believe the Monday or the Tuesday before your last ZBA hearing. I then issued a memo to you the day of your last meeting because I just reviewed the traffic report from GPI. So you probably didn't have a lot of time to take that in before your meeting. Understood. Since then, the consultant responded back with their comments relative to GPI's comments, and they've been on the phone and emailing us many times. I stress many times. With revising the plans to suit our needs. Just to back up, at the time when I issued you the memo, in the last hearing, I had 4 or 5 relatively large comments relative to traffic. I'll just start off with number one. Number one, this is a shared comment from our consultant GPI also, was to come up with a traffic management plan for the grand opening. Sonic even admits in their own traffic report that this is a big event and it can last several months. So I think we really need to have a condition for approval that traffic management plan be submitted, reviewed by our consultant, and also reviewed by the town engineer and the police department prior to the issuance of the building permit. Number 2, the entrance onto Lincoln Street. It was just an open entrance, and just because of the closeness to the intersection of Lincoln and Washington Street, we felt strongly that we didn't want a left turn, because that would be a conflicting movement, especially during the peak hours, because there's always a queue on Lincoln Street. They've worked with us, they've constructed a raised island made out of vertical granite curbing that promotes vehicles to take a right out of the site. It actually has a very good deflection angle, so they're really going to be forced to take a right. So they've certainly addressed that comment from my standpoint. Another big comment was just pedestrian safety in the area. You got Sonic, and everybody knows it's going to draw kids. You got athletic fields across the street, I believe, and then you got the schools, and they always have deals, and everybody wants to go to Sonic, especially the kids. So from my standpoint, that was very important. We recommended some sort of pedestrian signals, rapid rectangular flashing beacons at the crosswalk on Washington Street. It's just north of the site. So pedestrians crossing Washington Street would have to cross Washington Street and do the crosswalk and then cross Lincoln Street to get to the property. So we were requesting rapid rectangular flashing beacons to be proposed for those locations. Since then, through some correspondence, I think the applicant has come up with a better plan where they've actually eliminated that crosswalk, the northern crosswalk on Washington Street, and they've moved it south, which is a good change, because now, if you can picture it, you're at the Lincoln Street exit, Lincoln Street. You want to take a right, you're always looking to the left. And the crosswalk is literally right to your right. So once you see a gap, you just start going. And if there's a pedestrian in that crosswalk, it's dangerous. It's almost happened to me a couple times. It's scary. So they've actually proposing to remove that, block it out, move it south, so that the crosswalk goes across Washington Street right through the subject property. Much safer. One crosswalk is better than 2. There still is a crosswalk on Lincoln Street, but I feel that less kids would use that because that's not driving the kid factor into it. The mitigation that was proposed for that is a donation of $15,000 for rapid rectangular flashing beacon at that crosswalk. So that would have to be put into a special account with the town to only be used for that purpose. Speaking with our assistant DPW director, the cost can range somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. So the board might want to consider $15,000 as the issue right now. Is that adequate? The sidewalk on the Washington Street side of the property, it's in poor condition. Obviously, with the pedestrian levels being increased, with kids being around there, we felt strongly that sidewalk could get repaved. Since the last plan, they have proposed to repave it. The revised plans in front of you are showing that, so I'm happy with that. And then, it's not minor, but it is minor compared to the other things. I didn't pick up on the plan if there was a bike rack. Our consultant mentioned it in their review. I didn't see it on the plans, but I just picked up on it today, so I apologize I didn't talk to you sooner about it. But I think that's a minor thing that you could certainly condition in your approval that be on the plans. Other than that, we've also done a technical review for the planning board, which is similar to this, but we kind of look at a lot of different issues, drainage, sewer, things like that. They've pretty much addressed all those comments this week. So, from our standpoint, I think things look pretty good.
I have one question to you about the crosswalk. I actually wanted them to take the one out that goes to Rockland Bank and goes no place and put it so it's on the side where Sonic would be, which you've recommended. What's the, I think the one that's there now, isn't that one from the state?
No.
Because I thought that's where we stopped.
Just south of the state layout.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there'd be no problem with moving it to the other side? Okay. That was one of my problems. It's funny because I also had questions about the grand opening, what they're going to do. And I'm sure it's going to be bombarded.
Yeah, I think that's a very important comment for grand opening.
And I had one question to you that goes for the crashes, the 13 crashes, Washington Street and Lincoln Street from January 12th to 2015. Are those just reported crashes?
Those
The police department got, I mean, I know you went to the police department, but
right, so that's when a crash report was filed with the police department. So if there was a minor crash and the police wasn't called, then right, then that's not, that doesn't show up in that data.
On the GPI, they have of these newly generated vehicular trips, 70% is expected to go through the intersection of Washington Street at Central Street. I don't understand why would up there, with 20% continuing south on through the Sonic study area. Are they telling me that from Washington Street to Lincoln Street, we're going to lose 50% of the cars?
No, just want to double check.
It was on well, the GPI report.
Right, so what they're referring to, the 70%, that's talking about the background projects?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what they're talking about is when you have existing counts and then you grow it by a growth rate, just general, we use 1% per year for 5 years, but then if you know there's projects coming online, you individually add those projects on top of that. We didn't, so what they're referring to, 70% of the Dunkin' Donuts that may or may not be going into the mobile, 70% of their trips will be coming past our site. We didn't include it specifically because even though it's 70% of their trips, let's just say there's 50 trips, so 35 would be coming past our site. At Dunkin' Donuts generates mostly pass-by trips. It's up to 80%. Pass-by trips are people already on Washington Street that will get Dunkin' Donuts and keep driving in the same direction. So out of those 35 trips that are coming our way, 80% of them, I'm not that good at math, but let's just say 25 of them will already be driving past our site. So it's a very small increase of new vehicles driving past our site, so we didn't include it specifically. However, the background traffic growth, which just grows every volume that's in this area by a percentage, was higher than what we've seen. We have counts from Lincoln Street at Washington in 2013, and then we did them again at your request June of this year, and we saw little to no growth at all, and we still did 1% per year. So the higher growth rate that we use will more than account for anything Dunkin' Donuts happens to send our way.
And the other thing I did was the flashing lights, which I knew. Those are all my questions. Guess I'll let the rest of it. Shane, you have any questions on it? Okay.
So last time, Brian, I did ask the question about the crash diagrams, and then if you know the nature of the accidents that happened at Lincoln Street,
Right.
and you indicated that there were only 2 accidents between the.
I remember saying that when he just said there was 13. I said, that doesn't sound right. I told him there was only 2 last time, but I did just see from our study that there was 13. So I do not know if there's a trend because I misspoke and I believe that there was only 2. So I apologize.
I just want to make sure that I
Yes.
heard you correctly.
Yes, I completely apologize. I don't know
Okay,
where
no
I
problem.
saw the 2 when I was reading it 2 weeks ago.
Okay. So in this, the traffic impact that you distributed, the most recent, right?
Right,
And
just to back up, so we did the traffic study. I just want to make sure everyone knows, now that you've seen everything. We did the initial traffic study. You requested additional data. We supplied another traffic study. Then GPI reviewed it. You have that. Then the town engineer. Then we submitted our responses to GPI, and then the town engineer responded to us. So we went over all of those documents except for the town engineer's letter last week. Happy to do it again now that you've had time to look at it, but there isn't anything new other than the site plan that I haven't discussed with you.
Okay. So just to go through that paragraph about safety analysis,
Sure.
that's came from you, right? Of the 13 crashes, we are saying that there were 4 of them resulted in personal injury, right?
Right.
Okay. 4 out of 13 is a significant number, I would say.
Yes.
2 crashes involve pedestrians.
So that's where I got the 2 from.
Huh?
I said that must be where I saw the 2
Right.
and misquoted.
2 pedestrians.
Right.
Also out of 13 is significant.
Yes.
And 1 involved bicyclist.
Correct.
And given the small number of bicyclists in that area, again, I mean, we would like not to have any crashes with bicyclists because we're trying to encourage them to use that roadway.
Agreed.
But it happened, there was 1. The crash rate overall, based on the traffic volumes and the crashes, is 0.53, which is probably a little bit less than the 0.58. It's very close, so it's kind of pretty close to say that intersection is not really very safe, nor it's a disaster, I would say. It's right on the border, right?
Right, it's slightly better than average. And the other thing to remember too is the 0.58 crash rate is based on Mass DOT data. Mass DOT data is less detailed than the police data that we received. So when we're comparing to 0.53, we have 13 crashes. If I looked at the Mass DOT data, there might only be 7 or 8. And they're basing their crash rate on those less crashes. So the fact that we're near the DOT average but not using DOT data really means we're actually a lot better than average than what these 2 are showing.
Is the 0.58 the district average, or is it the statewide average?
That is the DOT District 5
District 5.
unsignalized district average, correct?
So that kind of lead us to the site plan,
Correct.
and to alleviate the safety issue, what we said, okay, we're going to take that crosswalk on the north side, and then we're going to put like 1 at mid-block.
Right, and the reason why it's not intended to be a mid-block, the reason why it's as far south as it is because across the street, right at the southeast corner of Lincoln at Washington Street, you have the Parkway. roadway. So we would like the crosswalk to be a little bit further north, but if that was the case on the west side of Washington Street, it would be leading right into a road. You can kind of see on C2, there's a painted crosswalk. It's a little bit thicker than the curb line that's on the west side. So that's where, so we're on Washington Street. You can see the darker crosswalk. If you look to the left side of it and just above it, there's those two gray lines that are a little thicker. Those are the crosswalk, which isn't really that prominently painted, to be honest, but that is where Parkway is. So we can't be any further north than when we're showing the crosswalk. Otherwise, we'd be leading right into the middle of that roadway. It's a very minor used road, but it still is a roadway, so we can't have the crosswalk leading to that. So we discussed all this with the town engineer and the assistant town engineer, and that's how we came up with this location.
I appreciate that. I mean, I know town engineer did present that he is on board with all these recommendations. However, I just want to, from a practice point of view, in your opinion, if you were to show it to any practitioner and say, okay, we're putting a crosswalk right in the middle of the intersection at mid-block, would they say it's a good practice, or would they say it's not acceptable?
In my opinion, I wouldn't say either. It's not the best practice, but it's not unacceptable either. And again, to me, it's for the reasons that the town engineer mentioned. Having the crosswalk on the south side of the intersection is a better location than where it is existing. The other thing that the town engineer didn't mention, and you can see it on the plan, is we actually need to continue the turn lane onto Lincoln Street past the crosswalk, because the radius is so large on that side of Lincoln Street that you need to give guidance to the drivers, and that is also not standard and not recommended. So we're alleviating one existing issue by moving into, we're alleviating a few existing issues and creating one new one. So it's not the perfect solution, but there really isn't the ability to have a perfect solution here.
Yeah, I think the concern would be is that for people coming on Lincoln Street trying to turn left, they're paying a lot of attention to the right traffic, and then all of a sudden they just take off, and it happened like, depend on the pedestrian behavior. Some
Right.
of them, they just hang around the middle of the street maybe, and then they'll get hit very quickly, right? And that's similar to the driveway itself, because there's that driveway close to the intersection, and if a person exiting the driveway, turning right and not having a good line of sight toward the intersection, and then you turn left and you start to accelerate, and you all of a sudden you're faced with a vehicle ahead of you, that also causes
So
accidents.
that's the existing condition that the town
Right.
engineer talked
No, I
about.
understand that.
Right. That happens.
So if the desire to have that crosswalk right at the intersection, which is the most practical way, and extending that curb line a couple feet and making it at a little skewed angle, would that work?
Extending it so we're making the Parkway curb cuts
Yeah.
smaller, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you can see all the notes on this plan. It's all proposed work to be done by others. So
Sure.
there's more engineering that needs to be done before the flashing signal goes in, or the flashing sign, excuse me, or the crosswalk goes in. So that's stuff that whoever the engineer is, whether it's the town or a consultant, things
Sure.
that they can look at to get a precise location.
So I would say that if I was giving this plan to the town engineer, I would put it right in where it's supposed to be, and then they would be dealing with it later, right? Because we're saying some others will do that
Right.
way, right? Okay. So from my personal preference, I would say, and I go that way. I run and I walk. I think it's safer to have that crosswalk at the intersection.
But still on the south side of Lincoln Street.
Yes.
But if you go, I'm not trying to cut you off, but if you bring it to the corner, I think if you look at that would put you, if you ran it right across, you'd be putting it right in the middle of the actual driveway that goes
That's
into
what I'm saying. They can extend the curb on the opposite side to block that,
I
to
don't know if you
reduce
can
the
do
width
that,
of the driveway, and then have the wheelchair ramp.
because then you got two businesses that you're going to be.
I'm not closing the driveway.
No, but if you move it further north now.
Right here.
I don't know if you've tried to go into Citizens Bank and you go in that way. It's people fight you getting in and out of it. and you can barely get 2 cars in there at times.
Yeah.
Um,
But throwing the crosswalk anywhere on Washington Street is not safe to really for
Oh, no, I'm not
pedestrians.
saying that, but I mean, if you just move, if you can, and I don't know if you can do that, but instead of making a crosswalk that goes straight,
Mhm.
if you bring it down to where, in front of the, I don't know what they sell, Express, David Vinny's haircuts, and then maybe, cut it, instead of going straight across, bend it toward the corner. Is that acceptable? Is it? I mean, you people are traffic studies, I'm not. I'm just trying to make it safe for the
I'm
kids
just
to
trying
get
to
across the
figure out
road.
what is.
This?
He's
They're
saying
gonna,
Oh,
that
no,
they're
this
gonna go
way is
straight
way
across.
off.
They're
It's
not
gotta go
gonna
straight.
at
right,
any-
you don't want to, if it's not perpendicular, the way we have it
Yeah,
shown here, if
Maybe
you
a
put
little
it on
skewing, but not
right,
really.
if you put it on an
wrong.
angle, it just makes it longer.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit longer of a crossing, plus, like you
Yeah.
said, people don't tend to stay in them, so we're trying to say this is where the best place to cross is, so it's just a matter
Okay.
of deciding.
Yeah, also the orientation of the wheelchair ramp, excluding the crosswalk, the orientation of the wheelchair ramp now from Mass AAB, board would always kind of reject that. They will tell us to push it a little bit to make it more in line with the desired line for the pedestrian crossing. So now the way we're showing it, it's going right to the middle of the intersection. And the reason for that is that if a blind person is trying to go down that ramp, not necessarily the wheelchair, is that we're directing that person to go right to the middle of the intersection instead of following the crosswalk. So from a design point of view, I'll probably bring it up a little bit, unless we bring that crosswalk to make it an apex ramp, and then in that situation, probably we can leave it that way. So. And I have no further questions.
So what was the proposal or the thought around the timing of the crosswalk changes and the RFB pedestrian sign?
The town engineer might be better to decide that. We're providing the funding, and the town would be taking it from there.
Yeah, I mean, the applicant's giving us the funding for this specific use, so I think it would be up to the town to coordinate that with their construction project. One thing that they're doing, even though this crosswalk is conceptual, that ramp is not going to be conceptual. That has to be they're constructing that ramp, so that's very important to know where you want that now, because that's going to be where the crosswalk is going to be. So they're going to be building that ramp. That's going to be coordinated with us putting the lights in and the striping for the crosswalk. And I would think the DPW could do that like they did for the one in the center of town at some point during construction prior to an occupancy permit.
And what's the cost for moving the crosswalk?
Blocking out a crosswalk and striping is minimal. It's probably several $100s.
Is there additional, I mean, to get this project on the DPW's job list? How does that work?
I've talked to the assistant director. Doesn't involve a lot of work from their standpoint. It did take them a couple days to put the pedestals in over here, but the actual installation time isn't that extensive. So I think we could coordinate it. They're going to have the whole construction phase where we can try to get those in. So we have some flexibility.
Is there any need to go to town meeting or get some other types of approvals to get this? the
Well,
queue?
the key to this is the funding amount.
Right.
They got $15,000, so I kind of mentioned before that that might want to be looked at. They range from about $15,000 to $20,000. So that's, I guess, my only concern is if we didn't have enough money, where do we get the extra money from?
Okay. So do you believe that if we were able to condition the final determination of the crosswalk, would that be something that could be conditioned to the approval of the engineer?
Yeah, I would feel comfortable with that.
Okay. I have no further questions.
No?
Most of my issues have been addressed.
I don't have any questions.
The crosswalk, they're donating, putting in 15,000, if I get this right. I could barely hear you with that air conditioner. 15,000, you said it could be as high as 20. If it's 20, the burden of that 5,000, is it on the town of Stoughton?
Yeah. Yep.
Why don't we get some bids first to see what it is? Before we vote on this and say, we're gonna burden the town with $5,000 for a crosswalk that the town never asked for.
Well, we did speak to the DPW director. They actually just installed the ones in the square. The middle.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
before we vote on it, I don't know how we can vote, yeah, $15,000, could come out $23,000, we don't know. We should get a bid first.
And
As
that's-
far as the new plan that you brought in tonight, those 5 items you mentioned, is that the only difference from the old plan?
Yes, so we submitted the plan last week. It's dated September 10th. And then that has, the only difference between that plan and the plan from tonight is putting the median on Lincoln Street back in, and that's,
The 5 things that you mentioned, I think it was 5.
no, not for the plan. The plan, compared to last week, the only difference on the plan is just the median on Lincoln Street. After we met 2 weeks ago, it seemed like there was consensus that the ZBA didn't want the median restricting the left turn out of the site. So we submitted the plans without a median. Then we talked. Then when the town engineer received them, he said, "No, I feel strongly. I want them." And as we said 2 weeks ago, we're ambivalent about it. So we put it back in at the town engineer's request. So that is the only difference on the plan that you received tonight compared to what was already submitted.
You concur on that, Mark?
Yeah.
The only change?
Yep.
Because we don't like getting plans the night that they're looking for a vote.
Well, I will comment. The plans that I received, yes, that was the only change. I'm not sure if I saw the exact.
We've gone
plans
through
you
this
saw.
before with traffic reports.
Yeah.
They wanted us to vote on something, and we got the traffic report that night.
Yeah, I
Now we
mean,
get a plan tonight, and the council says, gee, I'd like to put this to a conclusion tonight with a vote. We don't play that game, I think you should know by now. So, if that's the only change in the plan, and he concurs to it, maybe we can live with it, but I just want to edify the fact that there was nothing different.
to the best of my knowledge, yes.
I
Have you
can say
had
that.
time?
I can.
I can say.
Well,
You're on the other side of the.
I know, but that's the only reason why we resubmitted was just to.
I have had time to look at these plans.
Have you looked at the new plan?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Steve? Huh? I didn't hear what you said. No. Mr. Zoll? Stan? I got another Mr. Mussman here.
Before you have any additional questions, could I confer with Mr. Winstanley for a second?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Be right with you.
Extra travel time.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Okay.
Sorry for the delay. I just conferred with Mr. Winstanley, and we want to thank the board for being as attentive as it is. All of these projects are difficult for you, and it's a challenge, and it's especially a challenge when you're dealing with a national retailer or a national corporation that's coming in. They have their own requirements. That's not your responsibility or problem, but certainly the developer always has to deal with that. It is imperative, if we're going to keep the sonic possibility at that site, to get the construction started into the winter months, so that we can move the project along for the end user. In that light, Mr. Winstanley has agreed, of course, to make the $15,000 donation that he had offered to the town. In addition, if it turns out that there is additional funding needed for the project of up to $5,000, he will give that additional funding if it's required. But it's imperative to do that we close, move the process along, and hopefully get a successful vote. But he wants to participate with the community. He hears you. He understands the problem, and he thinks that's a viable solution to try to get us to situation that's comfortable for you and acceptable and workable for us, more importantly. Thanks.
Question?
So, I definitely appreciate that, and those kind of, I mean, these kind of, the $5,000 is kind of peanuts compared to what's going on in cost for the entire project and everything else, and I think it's a good gesture to add that $5,000. Given that, and we know that the cost may not exceed $20,000 based on existing installation, and not to delay the installation of those flashing beacon to later date. The town, by the town meeting, and then I'll be retired by then, and I don't think I'll be here. I would suggest that maybe have those also part of to be constructed at the same time as the site constructed. And then,
But we're not constructing the.
what I'm saying is, like, maybe you want to consider constructing it with assistance from the town engineer on the expediting the process.
I know I have great concerns about having a developer doing work on municipal property with its own employees, not involving the public bid statute under 30B. That's a concern and a question that I have, and whether or not a developer can do the work that you're suggesting, whether we can avoid the requirements of the state statute in 30B and the procurement statute by going ahead and doing the work that way. I don't think you can.
Okay.
We would like to make the financial donation, and the town can go ahead with its DPW at a reasonable cost and go ahead and get the work done.
So the question to you then, if an opinion came in to you and stated that yes, you can, would you be willing to do that?
We don't have time to wait for that opinion. I mean, we really need to move in this project or we're going to lose it. It's not a threat to this board. This board's been very pleasant to deal with and very professional, but we've got to move forward. And that opinion, if you got it from Copeland and Page, could be bounced around about 6 different times with about 6 or 8 or 10 different lawyers. I guess the Inspector General is the only one that's relevant in terms of what the opinion is, because he's the one that'll come down with a finger pointed at the town and say, what right did you have to?
And also, there'd be an additional cost if it wasn't constructed by DPW. So there's that concern of timing and constructability at that point.
So Mark, are you the guy that gets the bid from the town to put that?
No, DPW would. They
Who's
order
gonna-
all the
Who's
lights.
gonna talk to DPW to get it?
I can talk to them.
You?
Absolutely.
And you'll report back to us?
Sure.
And obviously keep the developer in the loop, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really got to be coordinated with their construction.
We only have to write out a $12,000 check.
Well, we're agreeing to write out a $15,000 check, so let's accept
We
it.
don't know,
Let's accept it.
It's gotta be the
And,
cost of the project.
and
He's already willing to give you the other 5 if it needs it.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, it's on record, so.
So you'll do that?
Absolutely.
It's
gotta be- it's really gotta be
They gotta
coordinated
get
with
this thing
construction.
started.
Yeah. When they put the ramp in, and we know exactly where the ramp in is going to go, that's when we would want to place these beacons. We wouldn't want to, like for instance, we wouldn't want to put them in first, and then for some reason the ramp changes its location slightly, and then the beacon's in the middle of the ramp. So we will coordinate that with them.
And if I can add, if that ramp disappears somehow, and then it will end up, they will end up saving about $7,000. So I would suggest probably that $5,000 be put part of the initial.
He's already offered it, so I don't see any problem there. He's been very good so far. I mean, it's on record now that he offered it anyway, so.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody in the audience? What's the wish of the board?
Wait, you had questions on?
Sure.
Oh,
You know what?
The traffic study, is that still allowed, or we finished with that?
What's your question?
I was asking, initially you spoke to the board member sitting next to you, and I'm not sure whether, we're trying to get an understanding about the article, the chart on pages 1 to 6 on Precision Data Industries.
Sure. So he's talking about the appendix.
Right,
So that's the Aurora traffic count data that was collected by the tubes. They're automatic traffic recorders. They're the tubes that you drive over. That is the computerized outputs that was collected by those tubes. Precision Data Industries is a subconsultant that actually has that equipment. Our firm doesn't have that equipment, which is standard for traffic engineering firms. We always outsource the traffic counts. So that is what's in the back, and then the report itself summarizes all that data.
and your weekend, your Sunday data is projected from Saturday or from?
Nope, so we collected data as requested by this board on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Sunday data is, I would go as far as saying 100% of the time less volume than the Saturday data. I wouldn't say 100, but I'm sure there's something. Foxborough, there you go, on a Sunday afternoon would have higher volumes. But Saturday is in this case, I would be pretty safe to say is higher than Sunday. And we weren't requested to collect Sunday data for that reason.
Occasionally, what may happen is an event at the high school cafeteria or auditorium or the little theater that might spill over.
Right.
Okay.
Just one more question. I think back when we were talking about property lines, it was mentioned that they should be treated two separate properties, the site and
They are two separate
two
routes.
separate properties, right?
Right.
And then I'm looking at the proposed dumpster location, and so in that dumpster basically is located on the site itself. However, the picking up the dumpster, that's going to be happening through the parking lot of the.
I guarantee you don't want to read it, but I have in the file a 27-page access and cross easement agreement that's on record at the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds, and that allows us to go ahead and do that.
That's fine. Thank you.
I don't wanna be late. Okay. What's the wish of the
Chairman,
board?
Marguerite,
Uh,
you,
is there a
do
differentiation?
you wanna make a motion
Oops, sorry.
in favor of this, because I'm sure you're gonna have all the conditions listed.
I can review all the conditions that I've been writing down, and then maybe we can decide if somebody wants to make a motion based on that.
Sure.
Steve, if you've got any too that I missed,
Okay.
so I wanna go back to first night. Some of these are no longer in play. I had, parking for employees would be available as part of the overflow shopping center.
I think there are 6 spaces shown on the plan.
There is right now.
Am I right?
Right,
Yep.
and the cross easement would take care of that as well.
Where it shows employee parking.
Yes. By the dumpster, just a little bit down.
There's a note in the bottom.
On C2, along,
It's on C2.
if you go along Washington Street south of this site, there's a,
Okay, yep. I
on
see it.
Washington Street, right, there's a leader and a note.
Okay, so that's already part of the plans.
Thank you.
The bike rack condition,
We are happy with a bike rack condition.
Be
That was
added
just
to
an
the plan.
oversight.
okay,
We'd said yes from day one, but got lost in translation.
it's okay. So the condition around the $15,000 with the additional up to $5,000 that you talked about tonight. Traffic, management plan for the grand opening, as the engineer had indicated,
Prior to the.
prior to the building permit
Yes.
to be reviewed by GPI and engineer and the police.
Sonic takes that very seriously. They will be down here working on that plan.
Okay. And then tonight, to address the orientation of the wheelchair ramp crossing Lincoln Street as needed, depending on the outcome of the crosswalk. I'm not sure how we're gonna word that, but it's essentially if that crosswalk changes, it may not be necessary. And maybe we'll just say final determination of the crosswalk location and the orientation of the wheelchair ramp would be subject to the approval of the town engineer prior to issuance of a building permit. That's all I have. Did you have anything else, Steve?
Is there anything on sidewalks, or is it?
Yeah, it wasn't the sidewalk.
Well, they've already shown it on the plan,
Okay, there.
so that's why I don't have it there.
Okay.
You see anything else, Steve?
That was all I have. Just the sign.
Okay, so you wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant the special permit in case number 4157 in order to operate a fast food establishment with drive-through. In addition to on the plan, we need the bike rack. A $15,000 donation up to $20,000 for crosswalk improvements and signaling, and the traffic. And we need a traffic management plan for opening.
Prior to the building permit?
Prior to building permit. Is that?
Prior to building permit, yeah. And then the,
Wheelchair ramp.
and the crosswalk location.
In the wheelchair ramp for the crosswalk location.
Second. And we'll put that on the town engineer. Okay, there's a motion and
That's
then
drafted.
I second
That's
that.
drafted decision.
Two drafted decisions. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Oh, let's not give him the sign. Okay. I'll take up 4158. Zoning Board of Appeal, Town of Stoughton, notice public hearing. Public hearing will be held in Town Hall, Conference Room B, Room 301, third floor, 10 Pearl Street, on September 17th, at 8 p.m.
I don't know these. There's not mine. It's in there.
On the petition of the Tri-Town Commons LLC, represented by Attorney James Burke, case number 4158, for sign variance under the Town of Stoughton zoning bylaw of 1970, as amended Section 7C, signs permitted in any B district, items number 1 through 6, and E, additional sign regulations, items number 5, relative to the number and size of signage in order to install signage for the Sonic brand fast order food restaurant located at 630 Washington Street, further identified in Assessors Plan 55, Lot 166 and 167, in a general business zone in said Stoughton. Any person designed to receive any further notice concerning this petition is provided by the general rules of the Zoning Board of Appeal. Should file a written request containing his or her name and address with the board. Petitioner's representative or any other person designed to be heard in this matter should appear at time and place designated. It was in the Stoughton Journal, May 29th and June 5th. Mr. Burke.
Thank you. If I may, we've sought a variance under section.
We haven't opened
Oh,
this
we gotta
case
open,
yet.
okay.
Motion to open case number
Sorry about
4158.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion to waive the reading of the abutters and take the answers to question 8 as written.
Second. We haven't done that before?
I don't think not in this case. I don't think we opened this case.
Oh, it must have, because we continued it.
Yeah.
Oh, we did? Okay. Okay.
All in
Sorry.
favor? No, continue on. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
If I may, we've sought the request for variance under section 7C in a B district 1 through 6, and also E, which on number 5, which says you can only have 2 signs at a location, which is somewhat inconsistent with the rest of the bylaw. But we've sought a variance. We provided you with the signs. The major sign that requires some relief, and like in most sign variance cases, which are a little bit different, you're always looking for a dimensional relief. And in dimensional relief cases, our case law has been pretty consistent that suggests that even where there exists a minor hardship, the board is justified in granting the relief sought. So if you look at the pole variance, I understand the height is exactly fine. The difference is in the square feet on the sign. Your bylaw allows 40 feet, and if you take a look at the sign and you take a look at the digital display, it comes to 57. So essentially what the issue is that we're looking for is 17 square feet. Interestingly enough, if you take a look at your bylaw, in this lot, because it fronts on Washington and Lincoln, you'd be allowed 2 pole signs. In this instance, because of the uniqueness of this lot, small frontage, the narrowness of the lot, the fact that Lincoln Street is in fact a secondary street, and because of the small width of the lot, you really couldn't functionally put in a second pole sign. I guess if you're a developer and a lawyer representing a developer, you'd argue that in this situation, your bylaw anticipated there'd be 80 square feet that would be allocated to pole signs at this lot, 1 in each street, Lincoln and Washington. In fact, we're looking for 57 square feet. We think it's a de minimis increase. If you take a look, and I did tonight, and you go down Washington Street, there are many generations of signs of different sizes and display. Certainly, if you take a look at the car wash, which is way over anything we're talking about here. If you take a look at Cumberland, which is way over anything we're talking about here. And a number of consistent signs. This sign will be on the small level. It doesn't have an impact on the residential area that is not that close to, because it meets the, in fact, specifics of the height size. Also, interestingly enough, when you start looking for variance, one of the things of the dimensional variance is you're trying to give the consumer information as to what is available on the site. Because of the complexity of Washington Street, number of cars, the speed going by, and the smallness of the frontage, it actually is extremely difficult for consumers to be notified of the information and the availability that the location can provide them. I think it meets the variance, the hardship requirements of the variance, because there are circumstances relating to the size, shape, topography, soil conditions uniquely affecting this parcel, not the zoning district as a whole, that the hardship exists financial or otherwise, and you can grant the relief without derogating from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. So I think because of the uniqueness of this lot, it meets the requirements, and I think that the requests that they've made are minor, and again, these are the standard prototypical signs of Sonic. We're not giving you anything bigger than you would see in the normal corporate array. So if you've got any specifics, I tried to update a brief for you today to give you some basis of finding your result, but we would respectfully request that the board consider granting the variance and entering findings that there is in fact a hardship that exists because of the size, the shape, the uniqueness of the lot, the frontage on 2 streets, the depth of the lot, that's unique to this property, not the zoning district as a whole. And by granting the relief, it won't derogate from the intent and purpose of the sign bylaw, which is to provide informational notification to consumers. Thank you. And if there are questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Newer,
No, they're exactly what I gave you is what the signs are, but I can pull them out again.
he gave you, brief-
No, I'm talking about, I think you got it at another meeting, the actual layout of the signs on the building.
Yes.
Because you're gonna be asking for more signs as well, right?
The pole sign and the bylaw allows you to have 2 building signs, and we have and I'm going to show them to you right now. Here's the pole
That's what
sign.
I wanted to see. Yep.
Here's your pole sign. That's the building signs. And you're allowed to have them on one each face, and that's what we're going to do per the bylaw. But these are the signs that you'd approve.
Don't the signs,
How high,
Marguerite, doesn't the sign, the two signs include pole sign?
No, those are, I think one, and I'll get the bylaw for you if you'd like, sir.
I know on corner lots we've been given a third one.
on the pole sign, do you know how high the bottom of that pole sign would be?
Yeah, it was
The site distance, I didn't bring my other.
it met the
I know Katie told me it meets
20 feet.
the bylaw, yeah.
20 feet. And did you say that it was gonna have a board reader,
Yes, it is.
any particular color?
That I don't know. I'm sorry.
Board reader gonna have any graphics moving or anything?
You know, it's certainly informational about the availability of product within Sonic. And I don't know what you do with, you know, your other board readers, but I know Sonic isn't adverse to considering public information if,
Well, we've had situations with boards where you may have a car, all of a sudden just zoom on the board, you know. That hasn't been looked upon very favorable. A sign going up is fine, you know, things like that, but any kind of animation or movement on the board is, there no,
Sitting and scrolling and blinking, thinking through this, something like that.
well, there's one thing.
Considering what they're spending, I don't think they're gonna.
I think it said no continuous scrolling, so you can't have nonstop, going by transition between two different things.
I know we keep with
Well, actually, it probably looks like they're gonna have, like, some of the food, the pictures of the food coming on the,
Yeah,
on the sign.
transition.
That's no big deal.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's 12 feet up, so the site, I was worried about the sight line, because that's gonna be on the corner of Lincoln and Washington.
yes, it's shown
According
on the
to you,
plan,
yeah.
right.
So
And
I
it-
just
and it
wanna be
meets the
able to make
setback,
sure
too.
that they can see through it. And I don't think, to be honest with you, the way they built the whole thing up,
No,
they
I
don't
know.
wanna do anything to create a storm.
Right there in the
No.
corner, sir.
How many, I'm sorry, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I
we
might have
did.
missed it. How many signs are you proposing?
I believe right now that Sonic has the pole sign and the two signs that I'm showing you
On the building.
on the building.
So you're not proposing, you don't need a variance to beyond the two?
Well, you do, because there are three of them, and I think E specifically says you're only
You're under
allowed two.
E5, I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's contradictory.
It
because
is contradictory.
There's a lot with our bylaw that's contradictory, so, okay. So under E5, you're asking for the,
Yes.
okay, to 3.
Now,
Do we,
not to throw something into this. You're asking for 3 signs, the pole sign and the 2 signs on the building.
Yes.
What about, do they consider the, I don't know what you call it, but when you talk into the machine,
The menu board?
do they consider those signs? or-
I don't think they do.
Okay, all right, because I'm not sure, I never, first time for that.
And you're not putting any signs on the back of the building by
If
the
you-
menu boards, because we've had
if-
those before us.
If you take a look on there is a Wilkes plan that I submitted, and you see it shows the Sonic signs on the building. But also, if you take a look, and I don't even know if these are signs, but I'll point them out to you. If you take a look at the first page of the Wilkes, they have a notation, drive-through open.
Yep.
And they have a notation, full menu all day. And again, I don't know that you would classify those as signs, but, you know, they are part of the building layout for Sonic. Bring it to your attention. What I think I'd like you to do is if you're amenable, is to approve the variance based on the plan submitted, and then there won't be any confusion, because we have a record of exactly what I asked for and what you approved. And if Sonic has a problem later on, they can come back.
You've got a rear elevation here too?
Yeah, they actually gave you a, elevation on the plans that we got tonight. They were on the very back of the, elevation.
No, that's a site plan. Shows the. This must be the rear. That's the side. This must be the rear, okay.
I think what we'd have to do when we write the decision, we'd have to write the decision as a variance for the size of the sign.
17 square feet.
Well, just for the size, for the difference in the size of the sign, for the, two signs on the building, and then actually, I like the way he did it, but
There's three
Make a
signs on the
notation.
building, sir. There's three signs on the building.
Did I miss one? Where?
1, 2, 3. This is on Lincoln Street, I guess, because the drive-through is, this must be when you pull in, that's gonna be the front.
Yeah, you're
And
exactly.
then,
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
So there
you
are
wanna throw that in your,
there are 3 Sonic signs.
you wanna throw that in your variance?
Well, no,
Not that
actually,
we're gonna do it.
that's why I did it this way, because I didn't know exactly what they were giving me and what they were asking for. So I incorporated them based on the plans. So that's what I just suggested. If you
yeah, if we go
approve
by the plan.
what I did on the plans, then there isn't any question. You've seen them, you know what they are, and
Those has 2 on a lot that we've been known to. Okay, 3.
well, that apparently is exactly what it is, 3, thank you.
Okay.
Lost my sign page. I don't have that red striped sign page, I can't seem to find it. That's got a date and a stamp or some sort of a title.
Which one you looking for?
I had it a minute ago and it's probably just stuck in here somehow, but that's it. He's got it. Is there a title or a date that we can reference in a decision? Because that's the size, right? That has the size of this whole sign that you're looking for on it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the one. It's not dated.
Well, it doesn't have a draft date.
No. Do
Uh,
we have a stamp date on when it was received by the board? Mary, have that?
Probably not. But it would have been, when we got this probably.
Was this part of your original?
It
I
was,
mean, my
yeah.
paperwork's all shuffled,
May
so,
18th.
okay.
Oh, yeah, because I got 50 cents. So I would say that would probably be May 18th that we got that
So it was undated but submitted as part of the original application.
variance, sign variance, yeah. Which,
And then
I
it's
know,
the
I know
Wilkes
this says
plans,
we,
right?
it was June 18th, but we actually received it on May 18th.
Okay. Number,
The Wilkes plans actually do have a date,
right.
5/14/15.
Same day. Same,
Okay.
oh no, May 18th we got it.
Okay.
we have. And I'm
Seems
glad
like-
you, I'm
seems
glad you
like
have,
four,
I'm
right?
glad you haven't thrown us out yet, so we're
Pleasure
happy.
of the board.
Make a motion that we grant the,
After this,
the sign variance
4158.
in case number 4158 for 3 signs on the building, for the signs on the plans and the 17 square foot variance for the pole sign.
Shown on the plan.
Yeah, shown on the plan.
Thank you.
this is to draft a decision?
It's drafted this in.
Second.
All in favor?
Well, did we wanna, before I vote, do we wanna add a condition about no continuous scrolling, but transitions to other images are allowed?
Well, I think that's part of the sign.
Yeah, so no continuous scrolling or flipping.
Yes, yes, we'll add that to motion.
In animations, usually you put those in, moving
I
in.
think the problem, they might very well have basic animations.
Well, as long as they're not moving.
Animations by definition are moving. I mean, like the bubbles of a drink or who knows what they have on it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you.
When are you gonna start?
Well, I think Mr. Winstanley will start tomorrow, but we've got some problems with
breathing.
written decisions and clerks and 20 days and stuff like that.
Well,
Let's go to the zoning board.
We have to go to planning board, we're going next week. Next week is hopefully our final meeting.
I think you did a great job on that lot,
Well, I think he did.
and I think he'll continue.
And Mr. Winstanley and the Winstanley family are very classy developers. They do good work throughout New England and the Northeast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Don't thank us until we sign the decision.
Take it easy.
Okay. That's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Thank you for being on time.